If there's one thing in your Dynamics 365 implementation you cannot afford to get wrong, it's this. What's up, everybody? Mel here again with Sunrise Compass. Today, we're going deep on something that every single Dynamics 365 finance implementation lives and dies by, the chart of accounts. A modern ERP is about building a financial and operational foundation that actually reflects the way your business works. And the chart of accounts is the beating heart of that foundation in D365 Finance. To help discuss how to get your chart of accounts design right, I brought in one of our master finance leads, David Neal. He's been in the trenches on our chart of accounts design for a lot of our D365 implementations, and he's going to help us break down what good design actually looks like and what pitfalls can haunt you if you get it wrong. David, welcome to the vlog.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so let's start with the why, because I think a lot of people hear chart of accounts and their eyes tend to glaze over a little bit. So why should someone care deeply about chart of accounts design in D365 Finance?
Yeah, the design of the chart of accounts is crucial. I mean, at the end of the day, your chart of accounts is your foundational financial framework in Dynamics 365. This is what leadership uses to drive business decisions based on the financial language they're getting from these reports. At the end of the day, chart of account design is crucial because it's the conversation between finance, between supply chain, and between IT. So this conversation is so crucial when you're designing your ERP system, because these all have to be in sync to provide a clear and concise financial picture at the end of the day.
Okay, so walk us through what the building blocks are for a chart of accounts in D365.
So we'll start with main accounts. Main accounts are going to be the first part of your account string. The second part is going to be financial dimensions. When we talk about main accounts, we have a character limit in play, so maximum of 20 characters, but we typically recommend much less than that. Less is more. With main accounts, you have types of main accounts as well. So on the P&L side, on the profit and loss side, you've got expenses, you've got revenue, you've also got balance sheet accounts, things like assets, liabilities, you've got equity, etc. We've also got main account categories, which give you a further way to categorize your main accounts. These inherently help with financial reporting at the end of the day.
Okay.
When we talk about financial dimensions, this is that second part of our account string. These are going to be the tools that you use for an analytical purpose to slice and dice your financials. These help with ledger reporting at the end of the day. There are going to be some concepts that aren't going to be a financial dimension and may fall into a third bucket that does not show up in the account string. These would be called financial tags, which we can talk about more later.
Right, that's exactly right. So I have a question. So you said less is more. There's a character limit, but you usually recommend way less than the max, which is 20, I think is what you said. Why? Why recommend less?
Well, when we think about a user's day-to-day experience, if we've got a 10-digit account string, that's a lot to look through when you think about adding into financial dimensions at the end of the day. So just from a usability perspective, from a reporting perspective, it makes it a lot easier to read a lot quicker. And lastly, I want to point out the account structure. So the account string you can think of as the full address for a financial transaction. The account structure is what validates and enforces logic. Anybody who's ever been on a road trip knows how important having an accurate final address is in getting to your destination. The same way with financials. The account structure enforces requirements to make sure best practices are followed for all of our financial main accounts and financial dimensions.
So speaking of financial dimensions, I know we have financial dimensions and tags. So do those fit into the chart of accounts too?
They do. They're all part of the account string with the exception of tags. So I could talk all day about financial dimensions, financial tags. So when we talk about financial dimensions, again, it's how we slice and dice our main accounts in transactional ledger reporting. When we talk about financial tags, these are also used for reporting purposes, but they are not necessarily used for, the broad ledger reports, the P&L, the balance sheet, the income statement that we're running.
Like the dimensions do?
Like dimensions
Okay, gotcha.
are, correct. Yep. So when you think, I need this categorization of my financials to be enforced systematically, we think financial dimensions. And we think this is a nice to have, a good reporting tool, we think tags for more transactional elements.
Okay, that's a good high-level overview and a little teaser for another episode that I'm going to see if I can make David hang around for. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so back to talking about the chart of accounts. What are some best practices on designing the chart of accounts?
That's a great question. I've got a few for you here.
Okay.
One thing to keep in mind when designing the chart of accounts is the categorization of your main accounts within D365. In D365, we have a concept called main account categories. These, out of the box, have several options of categorizing main accounts, of grouping them together. These inherently flow into the financial reporting tool, which makes great use of Microsoft's out-of-the-box financial reports without users having to go in and customize them to no end. That being said, you can still go and customize financial reports as needed. Every business will. In a similar vein, the financial dimensions, when we're talking about designing these with the main accounts, if you think about an accountant or a clerk doing an entry, they want to see the main account first, and then they want to see in order of importance your financial dimensions.
Oh, really?
If you're often finding yourself using something like a business unit dimension or a cost center dimension, those should be first in your account string. Then things like location or project that maybe are more optional, not required in as many scenarios, those should be later in your account string so that the users have ease of access when typing and can skip past those when needed.
So it can be a little bit, wider, and then it gets more granular as you go down the string, but it doesn't have to be like that. It's more of an importance thing.
Exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
Another thing to consider with the account structures is if you have multiple legal entities in play, your chart of accounts can be a global tool, and these account structures ideally are going to be consistent across these legal entities. And a David pro tip for those in the audience, advanced rule structures are another tool not quite used as often, but very powerful when it comes to requiring certain dimension combinations that maybe are not going to be met with your account structure. It allows you to get way more granular, define allowed combinations, etc.
I love David pro tips. This is awesome. Okay, so tell me about what can go wrong if you don't design your chart of accounts thoughtfully.
A lack of thoughtfulness in your chart of accounts design can lead to an array of downstream issues. This can be a reporting issue. This can be user issues day to day with account structure errors preventing them from doing their job. It can lead to people almost having to become an accounting expert to understand what an error message is in D365 if we don't account this chart of accounts correctly.
So let's say you want to make like a last minute change to your chart of account structure. How hard is it to do that?
The only thing constant about an ERP project is going to be change. Things will pop up all of the time.
True.
And if somebody comes up with a requirement at the last minute, we can generally handle chart of account changes. It's better to get these in place early, but you can handle it later on. My key piece of advice, if you have a new chart of account requirement come up late in the process, is to make sure you test this end to end. Oftentimes,
Don't just put it in prod.
Don't just put it in fraud. No. We want to add whatever new account, rename accounts, redo whatever account structure, and then we want to test transactions that may be using these system level control accounts. So it's best to test when you have these kinds of changes.
Test. I don't know how many times we've said that on these vlogs, but it bears repeating. That makes sense. So any final thoughts for us, David?
Yeah, I've got a few for you.
Okay.
So chart of account design is an iterative process. This is something you should engage with your partner early and often. There's going to be multiple teams involved, so we want to make sure we get that conversation started, keep it going until we've implemented our ERP system.
Okay.
Similarly, you start with your main account design. We want to make sure we have a consistent nomenclature. We decide what the length of our main account ID is going to be, how we're going to categorize our main accounts, get that whole structure done. Once we've got that first part of the account string done, next is financial dimensions. And we look at these in two buckets. We look at these as must-haves. These are requirements for financial reporting. And then we look at these as nice-to-haves. These fall more into other reporting tools like financial tags. These are more so internal, non-auditable examples. But those are kind of the main scenarios you want to look at when we talk about chart of account design.
I hope this gave you a much clearer picture of what goes into designing a great chart of accounts in Dynamics 365 Finance. Your chart of accounts is your financial foundation, and it's one of the most permanent decisions you will make in your ERP. Design it deliberately, because when you configure it right, it does not just record what happened. It helps your business understand itself. All right, David. Thanks for joining me today.
Mel, it's been my pleasure.
Yeah, and catch you all next time on Sunrise Compass. See ya.